coming at you. Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, big show today, man.
I was thinking when we had Boyd Duckett on last February, getting ready for the start of the, or last January, getting ready for the start of the 2018 Elite Series season, could we ever have imagined what we would be talking to him about a year later?
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I was actually going through some of the mini DV tapes. You remember those that we used to record with and stuff?
That are in the Plano 3600 boxes?
Yeah.
That was one of my first jobs as an intern for you before I worked full-time, was to go through and label all of those, put them into the camera, close them, fast
tapes.
Forward, and label what they are, yeah.
I was going through some of those, and we were actually at our previous location before I moved here. We had Boyd on, and some of the stuff that Boyd was talking about on that show, very unique and very visionary.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was years ago. So,
but I mean, he's been like that always in business. So it does it just the way some people are.
Yeah.
I mean, you're bitter and condescending. He's a visionary. He's a visionary and an entrepreneur.
I don't know about that. You know, before the show, we were discussing the Super Bowl a little bit. Mm-hmm. Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I watched. I mean, it was definitely on him. I was doing
other things,
the jalapeno poppers on the Traeger and the shrimp and that stuff.
You know what caught my attention? And you mentioned it before the show. When they showed a picture of Robert Kraft, who did they show immediately after Robert Kraft?
They showed it before Robert Kraft.
Oh, it was before?
It was before.
Oh.
He had sunglasses on.
He's styling and profiling.
The owner of Major League Fishing.
Is also the owner of the LA Rams.
Yeah, that's why I was asking you. I said, do you think he had the live stream pulled up as the Super Bowl festivities were pulling on, going, man, is Edwin going to catch Jordan in this deal? You don't think Jordan got a call?
No.
A collect call from Cronky? Would you like to accept these charges?
No. Do people even make collect calls anymore?
I don't know.
No, it was just kind of a weird twist.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of weird to see the owner of MLF on there.
If you knew what was going on.
I had a very interesting evening last night, Mark.
I don't know if I want to hear about it or not.
I wish I didn't have to tell you this story.
Did it involve other people?
Yes.
Male or female?
Male. Thankfully, It was there. So I was organizing the garage, and you know those just like the pegs that like the soft plastics come on, but you can also hang like loose lures on them.
Yeah.
Well, I set some up, and I had a whole row of old Super Rogues, right? But I had plastics above it, so I put a pack of plastics up, and then I was moving my hand down. I put a number 4 owner stinger dead nuts through the tip of my finger.
Not good.
Like all the way through. But here's the weird thing. I realized, because it was hanging, I realized my finger stopped. I look down, I see it's in there. So I said, we got an issue. And of course, it doesn't hurt right away. But the weird thing was there was some pressure on the top of my finger. And I see the hook point barely under the surface of the nail. Just barely sticking out. So now I'm past the line trick. There's no way.
Any blood.
And that's the other weird thing. It is so clean and deep, it just went right through the middle of the finger.
It just kind of sealed everything.
So Brock is there, and I said, dude, this is beyond the line trick. And he looks at it, and he goes, oh, that's bad. He goes, you got to push it through, bro. And I said, what? He goes, you got to push it all the way through. And all I can think of is Jason Christie when Shaw Grigsby there at, I think it was at Sam Rayburn during Bass Fest, was like biting on a towel as they pushed him. And I'm like, oh my. So somehow I manned up enough and I pushed that thing all the way through the rest of my finger. Yeah. He cut it with the dikes. I backed it up, stuck it in the rubbing alcohol, and I lived to tell about it. You can't hardly tell there was anything in there. Now
Okay.
it feels, it hurts.
All right, my question is did you have the camera rolling?
No.
Did you record this?
No, because my GoPro that I'm doing for the AFCO Bass Boot
Yeah.
Camp was out in the car, and
Go get it!
In that moment, I wanted that hook out of my finger before it started hurting. It was in. I have done it enough to know where I have.
That would have been vintage footage right there.
You
man.
have 30 to 45 seconds before it starts swelling and hurting. The adrenaline is pumping. You can feel the blood rushing out of your face. And you know I have to push this thing through and get it cut before my body and my consciousness realizes that there's a large hook completely embedded through the meat of my finger.
Yeah.
So I push it all the way through. So there was a hook. I mean, you saw the mark. That's right in the meat, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, that's my story from last night.
All right. I talk about the weather a lot on this show.
Oh, my God.
Because the weather is greatly important to what is taking place from a tournament perspective. And the weather in Florida this week for the FLW guys, dude, they're going to wreck them.
81 and sunny all the way through. Now, it might rain a little bit on Friday, but if you've been watching any of the tour that's taking place on Toho, where the Bass Pro Tour just wrapped up, I mean, there were some big fish caught there, a couple 9s, some 7s we saw, but as a whole,
very few.
There wasn't a guy who went out and wrecked
The
big
dude
ones.
that won it didn't even catch a 5-pounder.
Correct. But
Right.
79, 81, and 81 for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with lots of sun for those days. Now, it's going to rain on Saturday and Sunday, but for the first 2 days of competition, they're predicting maybe some 30-pound bags, some mid-20-pound bags. Scott Martin said they're going to catch them. So the FLW Tour looks like is going to take 2 tournaments over 90 to win to start things out.
Yeah, that's impressive.
How crowded do you think those areas are where the Bass Pro Tour guys were? Because it was public information. Joe Opiger from FLW, Public Relations, said as long as it's public information, the tour guys can watch it. They had 5 days.
Now, I could be
on
wrong.
Toho.
I could be wrong, but I'm going to say not very. Not very.
I'm with you 100%. I think it might get a couple guys to cash some checks and might send some guys on a wild goose chase, but I think stuff's changing so much, and we are realizing how drastically different the BPT formula is.
Yeah.
And you're going to be fishing completely different stuff for the best 5 as opposed to the numbers.
Yeah. Especially this time of the year. And with the weather rolling in and the way that the conditions are going to play out, I think very few. Absolutely very few. All right. The next thing I want to mention, fantasy fishing over on the Elite Series. We have our group set up, correct, Matt?
Bass Talk Live. Just search it in groups after you create your team and join the group.
Make sure you join the group. I think we have 50, 60 guys in there right now. But I actually did my team yesterday.
It's weird, wasn't it?
It really was. I mean, guys, you just don't know. You don't know. You do a little research. You try and find out what experience from, a AAA level or the BFLs or whatever. And it was a difficult task. And when I looked at the percentages of guys that have been selected so far, understandable why so many guys have had higher percentages so far up to this point.
Kind of shows the power that Bass has to make certain names recognizable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's how you know them from.
Yeah.
And they're not exactly, I mean, you say, Keith Combs is one. He seemed fighter up on Mille Lacs, but you're not talking about guys with tons of classics and anglers of the year and stuff. And now you're looking at him going,
besides Rick,
you're going, that guy, that's the guy right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
How cool would it be if Clun wins again?
It would be awesome. Do you see his article on his blog on Bassmaster?
Yeah.
Talking about before you had your shoulder surgery, you should have just done push-ups with your Taekwondo instructor like Rick did. Come
That's
on,
not
Mark.
happening,
You
dude.
could have healed
no way.
yourself without any surgery.
No, not in my case. Absolutely no way that would have happened. My shoulder was messed up. Bad. Really, really bad.
Well, so was Rick.
The labrum was completely torn. So, I don't know. It's an interesting story and situation that he dealt with. All right, so those 3 things taking place, and a lot of questions already on the instant feedback for Boyd, so we'll get to him in about 5 minutes. But the dynamic of how this week we're going to see, Matthew, first event where 2 things are taking place at the same time. And what do we have this year? 2 time periods where all 3 are taking place at the same time. Is that correct?
Correct.
So what do you think is going to happen this week with the split of live coverage?
We've seen that the last couple years with FLW and Bass being scheduled on top of each other. FLW is going to be live on the weekend. Bass, it looks like, is going to be live from the first cast. If you look at their schedule on Thursday, I know they're planning on rolling out some interesting stuff, so they're going to be live all 4 days. But I think you're going to see another mix. I think you're going to see big giant bags come in the FLW tour. That's actually, that's really going to pull some guys over to watch those guys catch that. I think your weights might be a little surprising on the St. Johns River with the lack of grass. I know Bernie Schultz talked about that in his show, how Lake George doesn't have the same eel grass beds. It's going to be kind of maybe a more shell bed deal, maybe some smaller bags. We had a listener that wrote in to talk about, he kind of caught him. He won a tournament with kind of mid-20s there. Not as many Florida locals that are now on the Elite Series as there were in past years. So I think FLW is going to draw a lot of guys with the big fish.
All right, I want to refer
what are you
back.
Laughing at?
Well, there was a post on the instant feedback that I haven't posted yet that I eventually will post that I got a pretty good chuckle about. I do not remember the guy's name, the Big Ten announcer that did MLF.
Chad McKee?
Yeah, I could not remember his name. Did you see what he was sporting either on day 1 or day 2?
The vest suit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the lapels?
Everyone was bitching about that in the comments and on the message boards and stuff. Like, okay, you come out and you do like a redneck bass fishing show, and everybody bitches about how it's a redneck bass fishing show and they need to bring it up to the 21st century. And then they actually have it, and everybody bitches, oh, it's bass.
Great.
I loved it.
He looked great.
And the same with Marty Stone, like I said.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think it would be a better fit if not only did they have Rob Newell on the water and they had Rob Newell doing all kinds of other stuff, reporting and stuff, if you actually had Marty on the water to where he was actually doing his reports from where the action was taking place? What do you think? Do you think that would make it a little better?
I really hadn't thought about this, and I was talking to someone else who's very prominent in the industry. Yeah. And he brought it up. Rob Newell is top 3 in the industry as far as people with knowledge and stats and history.
Been doing it 20, 25 years.
He's one of the best out there right now.
Yeah.
Put him at the desk because you already have JT, who is a tour pro, who fishes selects, who can break it down. And then put Marty, who has fished professionally for 20 plus years and has all the on the water experience through the cup events for the last 7 years doing it. And it's a nice mix then at the desk. Instead of having 2 analysts, you've got, your stats guy, JT, the analyst, the announcer who's kind of running things in McKee. And then Marty's on the water doing where he's comfortable doing his thing on the water, providing the insight based on what he's able to see that maybe Newell won't pick up because he hasn't fished professionally for 20 years.
Yeah.
But it worked the way it was.
It did, but
I think it could be tweaked a little.
Yeah. And I think and we had mentioned this on previous shows where they started out, man, they were gung-ho. I mean, they really dove in and
like a rookie just wanting to catch the 10-pounder right off the bat. That's what I said, the announcers.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And they mellowed out. They really made adjustments. And by the final day, I mean, they had it pretty much dialed in.
I studied this hard, too, because, I'm going to be behind the desk for FLW at Grand with Travis Bray.
What did you take from it?
Less is more, Mark.
Yeah, you're right.
Less is more. Set it up. Let the guys do their thing. And just try to add something that enhances your watching, not something you have to listen to while you're watching.
Hey, by the way, I have the feed live, and we are waiting Boyd's arrival. He's not there yet, so that's why I'm kind of dragging this out a little bit.
That's fine.
So he is not there yet. Some of the stuff on the instant feedback. Maynard, longtime listener watcher, says, question, why do all of the announcers, Bass, FLW, BPT, have to yell at the top of their lungs when they have a pro come on stage? It's not pro boxing in Detroit.
You're just trying to generate interest. I mean, why do they yell at the start of the pro boxing event? Is that necessary? Both the guys are standing 5 feet from him. You've got a microphone. Why is yelling necessary at all in anything?
I don't know.
It's just part of the ambiance of the experience.
Yeah.
And, Lurch is a professional at this. He does it for the I think it's like the BMX, all the professional motorbike racing and all that stuff. I mean, he's like a big deal and has been, and was a part of it when the PAA did it. I mean, this isn't like he just was like, oh, let's come over and jump into this. He obviously was the host of the Cup events on TV, but just kind of stepped into that role of the post game show host. But has a lot of experience, even as the weigh-in MC for the old PAA events. Been around the game a long time. A lot of guys have known him for more than a decade.
Yeah,
and did a good job. I thought. I didn't think it took away from it. It was just kind of weird because you could tell there wasn't like a ton of people in the audience, and he's sitting there, hyping up the moms and grandmas and babies.
I mean, part of the reason why boxing announcers do what they do, I mean, Michael Buffer has trademarked and become a millionaire because of his voice and the way that he hyped up boxing for so many years. And then his brother does all of the UFC stuff. So, crowd battle.
And you got to give it credit. These MCs, a lot of these guys, you got all three of them, Jones and Mercer, and now you got Lurch there. You talk about the brand that they've helped these anglers build. Yeah. By giving them the nickname, by, it's a big show. The Prodigy, Brandon Paul, the most feared man in professional bass fishing, Jason Christie. Someone asked me the other day, why is he called the most feared man? Like, did he do something scary one time? But that sticks with you.
Yeah. Played basketball. Really good basketball player. Tom wants to know, what is the payout for the BPT? And that's actually on the website somewhere. Not the actual payout, but they give a breakdown of what the payout is going to be at each event. And I can't recall what that is. I know the winner got $100,000.
Give me just a second here.
You have a listing of it on your phone?
Yes. But I have to find it, so you're going to have to kill some time.
Still waiting. I'm looking at the live feed in Boyd's office, and he has not arrived yet. So.
First place, $100,000. Second place, $42,000. Third place, $30,000. Fourth place, $24,000. Fifth, $18,000. And then it goes 16-8, 15-6, 14-4. Ninth place is $13,200. 10th is $12,000. 11th through 40th, $6,000. Daily Big Bassett Grand. Overall Big Bassett Grand.
Total grand?
Yeah, $1,000.
Oh, $1,000. I thought you said at grand. I'm like, no. What?
$1,000. Event total payout $473,000.
Okay, so there you have it.
So 100,000, 42, 30, 24, and 18 for the top five. So
no entry fee.
No entry fee.
That's not bad. Not bad. Good week. Still have a few expenses there.
Now, based on what the previous payout was, which I thought was interesting. So if you're going to pay $5,000 of an event.
Yeah.
Now, what I had seen, and I don't know whether it was ever made public, was the second place was $70,000.
I just got the 2 minutes.
Right.
From Sean.
So second place would have been $70,000.
Yeah.
So then you'd have to take $5,000 off of that, which then would have been $65,000.
Yeah.
So basically, without entry fees, it cost Edwin $25,000 for that second place finish.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it'll all even out in the wash at the end. But I'm saying the top end guys would make more with an entry fee. Even taking out that $5,000.
Right.
But the bottom end guys, they're getting paid $6,000.
Right.
They would have gotten paid $10,000 with a $5,000 entry fee.
Yeah.
So they're losing $25,000 off second to gain $1,000 off 10th through 40th.
Yeah.
Think about that.
No, that's a good point. Good point. Sean said 2 minutes, so.
Okay, you got the 2 minute warning. Already bringing the Kroenke football elements in.
I see him in the background. He is in the hallway, so I guess we'll.
How long do you think it's been since he spent a day in the office?
Well, one of the things that I want to talk. How difficult was it for him to fish?
I don't think he fished at all. I mean, I would imagine he just went out and went, "Holy cow! I got to try to catch one now.
Because he had a really bad first day.
Like, imagine how when you're stressed out and stuff, when we come in and sometimes you do the show and it's just like, boom, the show starts. What now? You know, we have those every now and then. I would imagine that we might be kind of in the same deal with Duckett trying to catch one on Toho.
Maybe. All right. He is here. So we're going to take a break and come back with Boyd Duckett live on a Tuesday. Everybody, we'll be right back.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
It's about the hours spent getting everything just right. It's the attention to detail. Good just isn't good enough. It's the years spent on the water day after day. When you tie on a bait by Strike King, you're standing on the shoulders of legends.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4 strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
Hey guys, Aaron Martins here. I'm going to be telling you about a new product by Sunline. It's Siglon PE x8. I've been using it almost extensively all year for my frogging, flipping, drop shotting, shaky heading, worming, jerk baiting. It's by far my favorite Sunline braid. I honestly, I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly it's the best braid in the market out of any of the braids. Definitely check it out. It's a price point line, $14.95 for 165 yards, and that could last you a whole year, just one spool with using leader material. It's Siglon PE x8. It's my favorite braid, and I think if you use it, it'll be your favorite braid too. AFCO has a new foul weather rain suit called the Hydronaut. A lot of the features that I really like about it first is the speed vent hood. If it's raining out, you know, how a person gets wet is when you run down the lake and the hood comes down. With the speed vent hood, it's going to stay up. It has a camera mount in the pocket on the chest. The Hydronaut has a 2-layer, 100% waterproof nylon shell. If you're interested in a rain suit that has a lot of cool features that's going to keep you dry, you need to check out the Hydronaut from AFCO.
All right, we are back on a Tuesday. Show number 2 of this week. Tomorrow, we will have Mark Menendez on live from the St. Johns River. And he's going to fill us in on what's going down. A rare off day.
Bass came out with a slight rule change for that first event. They'll have 3 days of practice, then an off day on Wednesday, and then the tournament starts on Thursday there.
So
Same schedule as the tour events. It'll be interesting to see if they adopt that throughout the rest of the season, how much those guys like that, because about 15% of that Elite Series field is used to an off day before the Derby with the 12, 13 anglers who came over from FLW.
Yeah. All right. It is time to bring in our special guest, and very excited. The instant feedback already blowing up. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to try to get to as many questions as we can on the instant feedback. But unfortunately, just not enough time. So when we bring Boyd in, we will try and get your question to him the best that we can.
Is this the first interview that he's done since
I don't know.
the BPT?
I don't know. We'll ask him that. Boyd, you there, man?
I am here. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Is this your first interview since the event?
This is my first interview since the event, yes.
All right, very cool. Well, greatly appreciate that. All right, I'm going to dive right in there, Boyd. There are so many things that you can evaluate after an event like this, especially one that had the importance in the industry, in tournament fishing for everybody involved. And I'm going to compare it to basketball. And Matt's going to shake his head and just go, I can't believe Jeffries is going down this path again. But when we have a game, and I have actually learned this from a number of college coaches, they evaluate things 3 ways. And that's what I'm going to ask you to kick things off, all right? The first thing I'm going to ask you is, in your opinion, what went right?
Well, what went right is we had our first Bass Pro Tour event. It streamed live, and everybody in the country got to see it. So I know that seems silly, but just 3 months ago or less, we were running around the country signing anglers and trying to hire employees to do all these things. I think we've hired 42 employees in about 2 months or 2.5 months. So it's just been really a massive rush. We had a great plan in place, just didn't have everybody. So just the fact that it happened is a great success. So that's what I'd say, one of the things that went right. And it goes well beyond that. Hey, it was a fantastic event. I expected a lot more problems than we had. And we had very little, man. I'm so proud of the team, all the guys in production. Randy White, Dean, the whole team there, Corbin and the live stream truck, all the new employees that we have in live stream, they killed it, man. For the first time, we had minimal problems. So huge success on our end. We're taking, just a day or two to appreciate the fact that we pulled this first one off, and then we load up and go to Conroe for the next one. So that would be the good news. I don't know that I have bad news. Let me think. The worst thing that happened, I mean, we struggled some. We have a new website platform. Day one, just simply, running through the service that we drive our live stream through, had some glitches because it was the first time it rolled. But, the guys fixed everything in 30 to 60 seconds for the most part. No real major problems. It was awesome.
All right, that is the second question, is what went wrong? And you kind of addressed that right there. The third question is, what are you going to make better?
Well, let me think. That's a good question. What are we going to make better? As time goes on, and we smooth out some of the bumps, obviously our marketing team, John Acosta Bailey and the group, we have to make the whole world aware of the fact that we're out here, we're doing this. It's super cool to watch. So I guess that better would mean as the year goes on, we do a good job of marketing it so that all the fishing community knows that the Bass Pro Tour is live every single day, and how fun and exciting it is. Although I'll tell you, man, we're killing it on streaming numbers by comparison to this industry. So, we're starting with larger numbers than I think almost anybody has ever seen. But hey, we want the whole world to watch. Well, I want every sports fan in the world to watch this thing. So we have an insatiable appetite to grow.
All right. We had Jordan Lee, the man that won it, on the show yesterday. And I'm going to ask you one of the questions that I asked Jordan yesterday.
Okay.
Before this thing went down in Florida on Lake Toho, would you have thought that the eventual winner would win the event and never catch a fish in Florida over 5 pounds?
Our format is different with every fish counts. So you don't have to catch giants to win. You have to catch quality fish, and you have to catch fish. The key deal to Major League Fishing is you have to catch them. You have to get on them and catch them. And as you know, we've been on television 6 or 7 years now. If you don't continue to catch them, you fall down the leaderboard. So an angler that doesn't hit lulls, Major League Fishing is very different to compete in compared to a 5-fish limit. There's a lot of security that comes with a 5-fish limit that you don't have in Major League Fishing. That's why you see the guys jack to the level they're at. That 7-pounder that kind of solidifies one day of a standard 5-fish limit day. You don't have that luxury. You get 2 5s in the boat, you're good. You made it through that day. You can relax. None of that happens because you can't survive simply by getting a big bite. You have to always catch them. If you're going to win these things, if you're going to qualify, you have to catch them constantly. So it's just everything is ratcheted up a notch. It's an awesome format. I was so busy yesterday, first day back, I haven't seen Jordan's interview on BTL, but I'm sure that he could explain to you what that felt like. And the young man's won a lot of big stuff lately, so he can probably put it in perspective of what it's like to win the other ones.
The fishing stuff's cool, but I want to know about behind the scenes, Boyd. This is just us talking here for BTL. You have Johnny.
It's just us talking. You mean all the viewers are going to turn their head?
You've got Johnny Morris there for the first cast. You've got Crocky at the Super Bowl with his Rams. You've got these 80 anglers who are new. You said 50 new employees. It's the first one. You haven't fished. You said you almost forgot your boat trying to get it down there. Give me something behind the scenes. Was there a moment where you were able to take a breath? Was there a moment where you go, holy cow, this isn't going to work? Was there anything? I want something behind the scenes in a room. Did you have a moment with anybody or anything that was just either terrifying or exhilarating or something that we would have no idea, where you're like, you know what, that looked very smooth, but it was the opposite behind the scenes?
Every minute of it from when I got off the plane to go down there, on Saturday we had the whole field for the first time since signing day. We had 80 anglers. The anglers have worked together. Of course, we have the angler board and tons of feedback. There's 8 of the guys on the angler board. They have 10 constituents each. So tons of communication, but just to have everybody there in the real moment. We had about a 4-hour meeting on Saturday. So I was very anxious about that. And so you get through that and you have a day or two of practice, but in all honesty for me, because, we had Johnny Morris coming in and, one of the practice days was just off, I didn't do any, because we had so much other stuff. So really the whole time I was very anxious. It all worked well, but we haven't done one. You can imagine the first time you ever did a Bass Talk Live, you're just not sure what's going to happen on day one. But I'll tell you a funny moment. I don't know if anybody caught it or not, but when Johnny came in for the inaugural cast to kick off the Bass Pro Tour event, which was just an awesome moment to be at. I did a little interview with Johnny. We filmed it, and Jim Wilburn and myself, and we were presenting like a trophy, piece of memorabilia for coming and doing that inaugural cast. Because as the years go by and it goes down in history, that's going to really, really be a big moment. And I realized when I was talking on the microphone. Of course, we had all the anglers that kind of pooled in. We were on the edge there at Big Toho Marine, and I'm talking on the microphone, and I can't hear anything. And I realized that we didn't have any speakers set up.
Wow.
So that was kind of one of those big moments. Now, we went and did the interview. We got it filmed. It's on tape, but it was quiet. And in fact, on the inaugural launch, we just failed to put our sound system up in the rush of getting everything else ready. So then when we got ready to play the national anthem before the guys left, obviously we had the same situation. We had no speakers. So I guess that was one of those moments where you went, oh, man, come on.
Interesting. Boyd, a lot of people, and we're going to get to the instant feedback, but I want to bring this up because multiple people are asking, are you guys going to release any of the numbers as far as how many people watched, kind of how much time was spent? Are any of those numbers going to be released in a press release?
Oh, gosh, I have not talked to the media department about that. I really haven't thought about that. I mean, there's some point in time when we get all of our numbers and get them filtered through. I know that's something that kind of year end that maybe Bass, I remember they promoted their streaming, but they generally did it on a year end basis because a lot of that stuff is counted times 8 or whatever, times their events. So I'm sure that if it's needed or requested, we'd be more than happy to do that. One of the things that's interesting about streaming is how much of the streaming, it takes a large number of days, and you would know this, Mark, because Bass Zone is the early king of streaming. I mean, you guys were sort of a pioneer in offering so much streaming, but what you get the very day of, that's normally multiplied as people look at the archives so it takes a while to get all those streaming numbers, and then you have to sort through and determine, total number of minutes and all that stuff. So I'm sure somewhere along the way, into the year, I think that's what sponsors like to see. Something will probably be put together.
How are you going to deem this a success? That's what I was wondering, because are you going to say, hey, we've got happy anglers who love this format? That's a success. Are you going the numbers of the live streaming? Are you going the sponsors happy? Are you going how many people watch it on TV? Are you going sponsor dollars based on TV? When all this thing is wrapped up, what are you going to look at and say this was a success because X?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's everything you just said, because there is no one single item that makes it a success. I'll start first by saying that we're an angler-owned, angler-built, and angler-driven league. So one of the things that's critical to me and to our entire organization is the fact that we are building a platform for professional anglers that is better than what has been available to them. So we are succeeding at that, at building a media platform the anglers can make a living at, and a format that they enjoy fishing, and a process, just everything about their job as a professional angler associated with Major League Fishing. Many elements of that are way better than they used to be. That's a huge success because that was one of the driving factors. From a television and streaming perspective, it's critical that our sponsors are satisfied because that's our income source. So that's a no-brainer that needs to be good for us to call ourselves successful. But the purpose in that, my goal way back to early days when, Gary and I were kicking this idea around was certainly to have an opportunity to find a way by expanding media platforms to reach out and touch people that weren't in bass fishing. In other words, for our sport to grow and have a larger audience, not just participants, not just people that fish, but to have a larger audience, we had to create something that was interesting to watch so they could feel the passion that we feel. All of us today on this show, we understand what that is. But there's millions of viewers, millions of Americans that don't know what that feels like. They don't. And so one of my main drivers from the very, very beginning was to be able to go out and touch people. And if they come into our sport and participate, that's fantastic because we want them to enjoy it as well. I also want them to certainly be aware of it. And I believe that our sport is fun and exciting. and that we can have millions of fans that may or may not fish. We are succeeding at that. We have, for the first time, legitimately, you hear the term grow the sport. We have invested to do that. We have succeeded in doing that. We are touching through our many media platforms a whole new group of people. We're making them aware of professional bass fishing. They're enjoying it. So that's the biggest success. That's what at the end of the year and at the end of the next year, as those numbers grow, it's not for a monetary number. It's to be able to reach out, and especially with the youth, the demographic for our viewers are much younger than traditionally what's been in professional bass fishing. And if we can go out and get high school kids excited and younger people excited in our sport, not only will they come in and participate, but they'll also grow up, and through their lifetime, they'll become stewards of bass fishing, protectors of our environment, protectors of our waterways and systems. In order for our government, state, local, federal level, to be aware of our waterways and our fisheries and all of outdoors and our national parks, there has to be a constituency. I mean, let's face it, the squeaky wheel gets the oil in America. And so if we can expand the awareness of the use of the outdoors and the protection of the outdoors, we will have hit the biggest home run of all time. Whether we make $100 million or little or no dollars, it would be the greatest success that I could have hoped for. We're tracking for that to happen.
You mentioned the conservation aspect of this. Is that probably where you might see the most likelihood of MLF, BASS conservation, and the FLW, TBF working together? I mean, it seems like it would make sense for all three of you guys to work together on that conservation front, specifically with what bass has done over the past 50 years and what the TBF has done too, and the infrastructure that they already have at different government levels and conservation levels.
Absolutely. That's a great opportunity. Of course, we're the young up and coming business. We got our hands full in 19. We have full intentions of doing our share to try to make the largest positive impact that we can. And given the opportunity, to work with the great people at Bass, my hat's off to the fact that they have always invested in conservation and to try to protect our resources. Love to work with them. And FLW, it would be a cool idea to be able to do that. We have some other plans as well that where we intend to team with entities in conservation that are beyond Major League Fishing. So we got a lot of great stuff coming. My dream would be that the reality of Major League Fishing is that when we go to an event, when we come to your fishery, that you have the confidence before we come that we leave it better than we came, that we become a positive impact. Professional bass fishing should be regarded as an opportunity to increase the value of your waterway, the conservation. In other words, everyone should be excited when professional bass fishing comes to your town, because it should leave your fishery better than when it came. That's my dream for conservation. So we're desired so that people that fish or don't fish know that when Major League Fishing rolls into Minnesota will be in better shape than it was before we came. That's my goal.
All right, I want to go to the instant feedback because it's blowing up. Kind of rapid fire, Boyd, but if you need to expand on the questions that the viewers have, by all means, we'll take as much time as we can. All right, first one. Binkwood wants to know, I don't know what that name is, but he wants to know, is the first event going to be edited down for a television show?
Absolutely. There'll be a 2-hour television show on Discovery, third quarter of 19. So starting in July, and every one of our shows will be, aired on Discovery. 2-hour television show is going to be awesome, similar to what you've seen, and that's part of that desire to go reach that new audience. A lot of folks watching Discovery are not traditional bass fishing fans. We want to go out there and grab them and bring them in.
All right. Maynard and a couple other people want to know, is there going to be a sportsmanship rule or guideline developed as a result of what took place with Ike?
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out this week. It's Mike is a phenomenal competitor. He's an emotional competitor, and everybody knows his heart and soul's in it. Winning and losing for all of us is a crushing emotional moment. Anybody that's fished and won and lost tournaments has experienced that. Obviously, I'm sure that Mike has some personal regrets for his own brand. Let a word or two slip that, I'm not trying to get involved in what's right or wrong. That's a personal decision. But, hey, man, it's an intense sport. And when you hit those emotional moments and you're in and then you're out, or you won and then you lost, it's devastating to be the loser in that moment. So I don't know. We'll work through that. We want to do what's best for all of our fans. We don't want to risk.
And there's a specific list.
$1,000.
There's a specific list of words
for restocking.
That's what I'm saying.
Every time a word slips out.
If Ike deems it necessary to drop 6 F-bombs at $500 a piece, then you just got $3,000 in conservation funds, and it's really up to them. He's really bettering the sport with every curse word at that point.
I like the plan. You'll have local people from every lake throwing rocks at him, trying to stir him up. So we'll have more stocking money for their local lake.
I'll say this. The beauty of live captures the emotion. Both, it's like that old, and I don't know if you remember this, Boyd, the Wide World of Sports intro back from the 70s and the 80s, where you had the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat with the ski racer that was falling down the ski jump.
Yeah, ABC
that's
Sports.
Yeah, that's kind of it. And you get to see that emotion and the reaction. So it is what it is. All right, Andy in Indiana wants to know, what is your mindset, and what do you think the mindset is for anglers like yourself and KVD that are mathematically eliminated from the first Cup event?
Yeah, that's really disappointing. Those of us that are towards the bottom, we mathematically can't make it to the first Cup event. And that's terrible because those Cups are great events, awesome opportunities for the anglers, tons of exposure, lots of money. You got to realize we fish in a league with no entry fees. So, those are high pay events that we're going to miss checks in. So that sucks. It's a bad deal. I'll give you the angler answer. None of us like to lose, but the good news is the way this whole thing is formatted, you're never out of everything. We still go to another fantastic Bass Pro Tour event. We get a chance to win big money. I'm sure Kevin and myself, we're both going to Conroe with plans to win it. And you get out there and do the best you can and try to have a great event. But that's how it goes, man. Remember, then we reset the clock and 2 more events qualifies the next Cup. So
right.
We're a long way from out of it.
All right. Let's see here. Cuss in New York wants to know, how are the anglers selected in the groups to fish in each group?
Yeah, well, the long-term plan for the Bass Pro Tour, all anglers will be seeded. Okay, so we'll have a seeding like any sport, so that you have an equal number based on previous finishes, an equal number of A, B, C, D, and E players. So, but having no history yet, instead of trying to make it up off of your previous tour, how do you do an FLW? How do you do it in the Elite Series? Mix it in with some of the, Cup events and select events. Instead of doing that for the first 2, we did random computer draw. The only fair way we could do it. We went random computer draw. So the first 2 events, the A and B will be the groups you see. The only difference is they reverse because the A group got to fish the first day this time. So at Conroe, the B group will become the first day. That makes it even. And then from this point forward, we'll always be seeded to keep the field even.
All right. We talked about Ike, and Jeff in Tennessee wants to know, what are your thoughts on the fact that Ike made the decision not to go through the post-game shoe or the drive-through? And from what I understand, and you can tell people, is the guys have the option to do that. Correct, Boyd?
That's right. The post-game show is not mandatory, and I guess that Ike made the choice that that the loss was all the suffering he wanted to have. I guess he didn't want to have to go through and talk about that again. But that's always from the beginning. It's been your choice to go across no different than going across the stage in an Elite Series. You're not required to do that, and that's your choice. So he made the choice not to go.
He had to go to Disney World. No, he seriously did. He was there. He was like at the Magic Kingdom with the kids and the wife.
Yeah. All right. Matt in Alabama wants to know, what has been the feedback that you received from the sponsors?
The sponsors, all of that feedback has been fantastic. I'm sure all of our current sponsors, and I know several that I've talked to that aren't our current sponsors, we're really blown away by it. You know what amazes me the most, in all honesty? We've done Major League Fishing for 7 years. It shouldn't have taken the Bass Pro Tour, to look and see how cool our format is. So that surprised me. I've had sponsors contact me and say, man, this Major League Fishing format, it's the future. It's the beginning of a new era. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And in all honesty, it's just Major League Fishing. I mean, it's what we've done. So, but that's great, man. If you're just now paying a lot of attention to it, that's awesome. But tremendous positive feedback from sponsors. So that's all good.
All right, let's see here. A number of people want to know, any plans on doing the same thing that you did at Toho by having the final day on a different lake?
What you will see this season, because we're going to figure out the best format, and right now we believe that the best format is not the same. So you're going to see us have Bass Pro Tour events that are all on the same body of water. You're going to see us have finals on a separate body of water. You're going to, like at Conroe, we'll fish the whole time on one single body of water. You're going to see us take a section of the lake and save that for the finals. You're going to see us use different lakes for every single round. So you're going to see a lot of change from that perspective. So as you watch all of the 9 events occur this year, including the championship, you will see many different formats. And we're going to learn together, all of us, on which format is most competitive and most compelling for the fans. And we'll probably migrate towards that. But right now, we intend to mix it up. And I'm not sure mixing it up isn't the coolest thing we could do. So we like that.
All right. Let's see here. Kevin in Illinois wants to know, were you happy with the fan turnout?
One of the things that is different about Major League Fishing, we're a media company. And we're media driven, so we don't have very many. In fact, I think we have 3 scheduled activations. We activated at the first one at the request of our sponsors, and so we had an opportunity to do all that. But we're not traditionally trying to push a big media activation. It's all of the streaming. It's our post game show. It's everything driven live. It's the television shows that we create from our events. That's who we are. We're not, our desire is not to have a big venue based festival. We love it when fans come out. Had a ton of people come by through the 6 days that we were out there. Certainly everybody welcome to come and watch us work. Watch the live set work. It's there for a reason and accessible where the fans can come kind of see behind the scenes how it all works. But that's who we are. It's that's what the plan is, and like I say, we'll have 3 activations this season. That's what's always been planned, where we'll push more heavily to have fans come out. We'll have more interactions, some giveaway stuff, a lot of activities going on. But that's not the intent of who we want to be. We're a media based platform, and that works really well for us.
All right, Jake in Ohio. He's got a pretty good question here, and I've watched a lot of Major League Fishing, and it seemed like this event, there were sessions of sequences where guys were taking a lot of penalties. And the comment that they always said was, hey, I'll take the penalty. I'll take the penalty. 2 minutes, is that severe enough, Boyd? Or what would happen if maybe that penalty was increased to 2 minutes and a pound? Any thoughts on that?
Man, you're going to have guys beat the officials up in the boat, man, is what's going to happen. Hey, listen, let me tell you, and you every Major League Fishing angler that you interview, you need to ask this question. How big is that 2 minute penalty? It's tremendous. It's horrible. It's just the 2 minutes, it seems like twice as long as it needs to be. And I'll tell you why. Because the 2 minutes happens during the 2 minutes you need to be fishing the most. That's why it hurts so bad. Most everybody that listens to Bass Talk Live, we all fish. You guys all know it. You catch fish in flurries everywhere in America. It's how it works. When you get a bite, the highest probability you have all day is right then to get another bite. And so taking that away from you and stopping that momentum is huge. At 2 minutes is huge. And by the way, I've heard that also. I'll take the penalty. I think that's just a reaction. Nobody wants it, and they really don't want to take the penalty. I just think that's the only nice thing they can think of, All right, I'll take the penalty. And what they really mean is, at least I caught one. That's what they really mean.
Right.
Because nobody wants to take the penalty.
Well, on the final day, that was one of the most dramatic situations with about 6.5 minutes left when Jordan took that penalty for 2 minutes, and Edwin was smashing him.
Edwin's within 5 pounds of him.
Yeah.
During that 2 minutes, there's a high probability Edwin could have caught 2.5 pounders, and they'd have been deadlocked. That 2 minute penalty could have been the game changer for Jordan. Now, it didn't work out. Edwin just didn't manage to catch him, but he was hot. It was going on. Trust me, Joe Lee knew that he was in a bad situation with that final 2 minute penalty. Now, being the superstar hero that he is, he steps right about, fires back out there, catches a 310 to throw the stake in the heart. But hey, man, everybody can't do that.
Yeah.
But it could have gone either way. Trust me, that penalty might have been a game changer.
I got 3 emails about this, Boyd, and I feel like it's a valid question to ask because it's a question that I have too. In traditionally, for the last 50 years of this, you have one scale. It's a calibrated scale. Everybody weighs in on the same scale. In this, you've got 40 scales held by 40 different people. Run through the process to make sure that's right. Because here's what I'm thinking. MLF, that's fine. It was kind of a made-for-TV production with the cups originally, an ounce here, an ounce there. Everybody knew what they were in for. Now you're dealing with guys whose it's their livelihoods. Jordan Lee made the knockout round by 2 ounces. That's not very much weight right there. We saw Ish, who requested a different scale, a second scale, and it weighed differently than the first one. A couple guys had reweighed differently. Just kind of talk about the process of making sure all those scales are uniform and that a 2-pound 8-ounce bass on Randy Howell's boat weighs the same as a 2-pound 8-ounce bass on Anthony Gagliardi's boat for the duration of this season.
Yeah, well, the scales are very accurate, and so what you have, the only element that you have, and the reason why the anglers have the option for a reweigh, it is possible to hold that scale incorrectly at an awkward angle, and, or not allow it to reset or something along those. So that rare occasion can happen, and so if you want to reweigh, you can. We have reweighs in every event we have for 7 years, and it never changes. In the case of Ish's fish, obviously I'm going to say it wasn't reset. And so they went to the backup scale, and it weighed was a 3.7 and a 3.15 from memory. So it weighed 3.15. Now, the very next thing that the official did was pick up the original scale and reweigh the fish, and it weighed 3.15. So the scales were identical. I don't know that I know what happened. When they're in the boat with them, but something happened that was awkward and obvious, which is why he required the rescale. But immediately the very next step is they went to the original scale and reweighed the fish, and it was identically at 315 from memory. So it's not a scale issue, and you do have to take the time to not hold it awkwardly. I don't know what happened. I've played with them a lot. It's hard to make them read bad, but obviously it's possible. So, but hey, that's what it's about.
All right.
Same situation with the scales at Bass, guys. You can easily, that's why Bass doesn't let reways happen, because reways are oftentimes different on the Bass scale. You don't have the option to reweigh. And, it's you do the best you can to make it as accurate as possible. But I would say, I am very comfortable, as most of us that have fished, we calibrate these scales every morning. The whole set of backups and the whole set of primaries gets weighed. They're identically the same. The next morning, when they go through recalibration, if one of them is changed, then we're digging to find out what happened. We just don't have that problem. The scales work and all the guys are comfortable.
Okay. Well, every morning I was unaware that was done. I mean, I think you typically think of your scale, it stays there for a year and a half and your boat gets beat around and you're like,
No. No, every morning we have a process and the official goes through and their scales are checked every morning and calibrated, so they're all identical every single day.
Cool.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of officials, can you talk about, Jeff in Tennessee wants to know, how much do those guys get paid? Do they get paid per tournament? And if you want to be an official, how do you go about doing it?
Yeah, we had so many guys that wanted to be officials that originally we were going to kind of work nationally and run all these different events. But then you got guys coming from different parts of the country, and a lot of them couldn't do all of them. So because we had so much demand for guys to become officials, we were lucky enough that we got a core really right around central Oklahoma, close to Tulsa, which worked out great for us because we were able to bring them in for training. These guys go through a tremendous training process. They're in the boat. They're tested. Believe it or not, a ton of those guys, don't make the cut. If they make a lot of mistakes, or they won't be able to go to the next event. And so anyway, you can if you were interested in becoming an official, and we did take a few. We had guys that really, really wanted it bad, were willing to travel to Tulsa to go through the training and all that on their own. Aaron Bashirs is the contact, and you could get on the waiting list, but it's long. So.
All right, Matt P. in North Carolina wants to know, can an angler use his own scale to verify the weight of the scale that is the official scale?
It's a good question. I mean, you couldn't do it during competition because we don't want to waste time doing that. But I guess if he wanted to bring his own scale, but I don't know. Most of the anglers probably don't have a calibrated scale. We don't really care what a non-calibrated scale reads. We're using something that's identical to each other. That's right. The key element.
Right.
But not during competition. That's a mess. I mean, there's no point in that.
All right. A lot of people are asking, they want fantasy fishing. Will that be out in 2020?
Man, we've talked about that. I don't really know that I have that answer. It is definitely a line item. And respectfully, there is a ton of work that we need to do. But guys, this whole team has worked 60 or 70 hours a week to get to this point, man. I don't know that I can give very good timed answers, but it's coming. And I'd love to see it happen for 20.
I'll just go ahead and continue with the questions you won't be able to answer. But right now, there's 80 guys that could fish at an MLF BPT tour event. What's the timeline on coming out to how these 10 guys will come on in 3 years, like has been talked about before?
Well, if you think about that, you kind of already know the answer. When we signed everybody, because the anglers were quitting their jobs at Bass and FLW, one of the things they were concerned about was duration, having enough time to learn the format and get good at it. So we offered those anglers, in response to that angler request, we offered the original guys 3 years. So every Bass Pro Tour guy currently has this season and 2 more. Then after that, we'll cut 10 a year. And so that tells you that obviously in 20 we have to come with all the info on our feeder system, get everybody signed up, because that's where the 10 come from. So you can do the math and see that you'll see information at the end of fall of 20. You'll have to see we'll be signing guys for the entry level tour.
All right. I'm curious, Boyd, what your thoughts are on the fact that Bass made the decision to throw out several live events on top of what you had going on from a live perspective during the week. And there's been a lot of discussion amongst people in the industry and the media. I mean, is this turning into a WWE versus Monday Night Nitro kind of deal between Vince McMahon and Ted Turner? Or does that even matter? Are you solely concerned about what you're doing and that's where the focus is?
We are such a different entity than Bass and FLW. I know I can speak on behalf of the top management group, the top team and management are from our board down to our top management. We're not in competition with anybody but ourselves. We had a dream, that started 7 or 8 years ago that has tracked. There was an attempt made to find a way to work with the other entities that are out there. It's no secret. I really wanted to do this early on, Bass branded. We couldn't get together on making that happen. It's their company. They don't owe me anything, So, and it's America, and this is free enterprise. So, boom, we're off and running, doing what we do. But we are a media-based company that we do our events completely differently. Our revenue streams are completely different. We don't even have entry fees. I mean, let's face it, the other two leagues, a major part of their revenue is entry fees. So we're not even close to their business models. So from a competition perspective, we're just about what we can do to make Major League Fishing better, what we can do to grow ours. If Bass wants to compete on live stream time or whatever, it doesn't make any difference to me. I don't know how they'll react or what they'll do. I know that there is no internal initiative. That you have to realize that my goal from the beginning has been to grow the sport of bass fishing, not talk about growing the sport of bass fishing, but actually do it, actually invest money to do that. This company has been built to do that, and we are succeeding at doing that. So, and it's not, I feel no malicious intent towards any league. I want Bass to grow, bring people into their grassroots programs that they have, bring these kids in through their high school and college. My dream is for bass fishing to get bigger and not smaller. I don't want FLW and Bass to be non-successful. I want everybody to come into this sport. And so and that's a genuine intent. That's what the company was built on. That's the foundation of the drive, is to grow the sport of bass fishing. So all we can do is the best we can at Major League Fishing. If I ever had the opportunity to help Bass or to help FLW, those are great organizations with good people. They do good things. I promise you I would. I'd do all I could to help those companies grow in their respective fields. So we pull for all of bass fishing. We're not in a competition with anybody, and I don't know that the other leagues feel that they're in competition with us. Yes, there is sponsor issue. We are in competition for sponsorship dollars to an extent. But beyond that, I wish success for everybody. That's the only way the sport's going to grow, and that's the truth.
That being said, are you going to be tuning into FLW Live and Bass Live this week to see how things go down in Florida?
Absolutely, man. I'm going to keep up with all of it. Yeah.
All right. I'm hoping that you can give us a clarification on points. And Matt, did you knock this out yet?
Yeah, no, I just want to find...
this is the situation. If you finish in, I'm just going to say 35th.
No, because 35th is obviously 35th. It has to be below 35th.
Yeah, if you finish in 45th in Group A or Group 1, Because
if you
they
finish
changed
below
it up.
20th. If you finish in 21st in Group A, there's someone who finishes 21st in Group B, who finishes 41st and who finishes 42nd
Yeah.
in the tournament overall for the points for the Red Crest and for the Cup events.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have.
Boyd is like, is this interview? Just end it. Go ahead.
I got
sorry.
this. And we have a series of tiebreakers because from one at a single event you'll have crossovers, and this is a better Gary Klein question because this is the stuff that he's good at and figured out. Him and Randy White production work on this hard, and Kelly Jordan, he's heavily involved in this. But basically, if for those two that tie at that particular event. Are tiebreakers, which may be, I thought I had that turned off, sorry. Those tiebreakers, which I believe is most number of fish and then biggest fish, and then it gets down to a performance rating. And the performance rating is based on, is an annual and tracked performance rating for every angler, the ones that were in your group by comparison. So I guess what I'm saying, there's no way to tie. You may tie in the same position, but that series of tiebreakers makes you finish in a spot. So you'll either be 21st or 22nd, depending on your performance rating from that event. And it works out well.
Okay. I know a lot of people, including myself, are waiting for the
I want
official
a better,
standings.
Because I have an issue with that. Like, what if it's like cloudy and windy on one day and they don't really bite good, but the guy on the second day catches 50 because it's sunny and calm, and then the next day it's bad conditions, and the next day it's not. But you're saying it's not that it's going to combine so many different factors that it's not just one element of who caught more fish finishes 41st and the guy finishes 42nd?
Because the performance rating is just in your group.
Okay.
Just created from your group. So the conditions are identical. Then the performance rating for the other 21st guy is based on his group.
So then whoever has the highest performance rating who finished in that 21st will then finish 41st and then 42nd. So basically from 21st place down, everyone will be compared to another angler for their performance rating. So the 34th place guy will be compared to the 34th place guy in the next group. The guy with the highest performance rating finishes the one spot higher, gets the extra point.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right.
And what you should do is you should talk to Gary Klein because he's the expert on this as to what the criteria of that performance rating is, because I don't want to misquote that.
Okay.
All right. A couple more, Boyd, and then we'll let you go. Let's see here. Will in Indiana, and along with Will, myself included on this one, are you going to get to the point in 2019 where the viewers are going to be able to select what angler that you have the 10 cameras on, what angler that they can watch?
Yeah, I don't know that if we'll get there in 2019. We'll probably get there in 2020. That's a production question. I've asked the same thing. There's cost involved to make that available. And so that'll come whenever we probably have a minute to get that far. So I don't know if that'll happen in 19 or 20.
When is the decision made on who's going to have the cameras?
Early on, like day one, because you don't know who's in what position. Depending on the venue, we try to highlight anglers that we think will be interesting at that venue. The production group would make those decisions. But then quickly, based on standings, as you saw, you'll see a lot of different anglers on, and we start chasing those guys. You know, if a man's moving from 38th and he's up to 22nd, 23rd position, then he'll be getting a camera and that guy won't be. So this is our very first one. That's one of the items that we'll have to cover this week. We did a pretty good job at Toho of letting those roving cameras catch up with anglers that are on the move, and we'll continue to try to refine that process. So the intent is, if a guy's in contention for the lead, or more importantly, in contention to be in or out of the cut, because that's the key the first 4 days. Those cameras will find those anglers, and that's who's intended to be covered.
All right. I could be wrong, but I really looked, and the only place that I didn't really spend a lot of time was social media on you guys letting the fans know who the cameras are going to be on that day. In other words, maybe on Friday morning or Saturday morning or whatever morning it is, to at least let the fans know, hey, we're going to have a camera on Boyd Duckett. We're going to have a camera on Mike Iaconelli. Is that a possibility, or is that kind of a last-minute decision where you don't have time to let the fans know who you're going to be covering from a camera standpoint?
Yeah, that's a great question and a really good suggestion. That's not something I've been able to get to the bottom of yet. But that there again, that is a production question, and I don't know at what point in the day that decision's made. I understand that information did go out via social media, and but I don't really know. That's one of the hey, we talked about all those bumps in the road. There's one of them that needs to be kind of smoothed out so we know. But it would be great. Couldn't agree more that at least the night before on the website, or at least at our Facebook page or something, we run down the list of those 10 anglers so you'll know who to start with.
Yeah, just an FYI too, Boyd. There's several people that have mentioned some of the fans don't have a Twitter account or a Facebook account or anything like that. So to be able to communicate that on your website would be outstanding for the fans.
Couldn't agree more. Let me write that one down. Make sure we get that one handled. So there you go.
All right, Matthew.
Thanks, fans.
I got one question. This is my last question for it. Has this thing been easier, harder, a major pain in the ass, the biggest joy of your life? You just summarize this thing briefly.
Let me think about that. It's been a ton of work, which I didn't expect it to be different than that, because I have worked to succeed before. I know that you get the return on your personal investment and everything you do in life. That's always been my philosophy. I've never seen it different than that. All that being said, it's very rewarding. Let me tell you what I like the most about the success we've had at Major League Fishing. Having been involved in businesses that were unsuccessful, I've had businesses that were tremendously successful. I've watched other companies that did both, that failed and succeeded. And I recognize that to be successful as a business, the key item is to build a team that self-perpetuates. In other words, the players feed off of each other. That's how, that's how Super Bowls are won and national championships are won. And business is a team sport, okay? The coach never plays a snap. Okay, greatest coach in the world never gets to play a snap. And business is a team sport. Now, you can use words and you can say team and you can say we are one, but it doesn't make it happen. So you have to have special chemistry, and success and enthusiasm is infectious. We have been lucky enough, smart enough, planned well enough, whatever makes it happen, that our team at Major League Fishing is genuinely on fire. They are enthusiastic. They're working their tails off, and everybody is excited, and they're having a great time. And yeah, we're making mistakes, and we're picking up the ball when the guy in front of you drops it. And that is what is creating so much success at Major League Fishing. This team from the top down, and I'm telling you, man, I've witnessed both. I've had it all. I've had teams go bad. It's hard to fix it. Right now, we have so much momentum with this team that we have. That's why it's working, man. And so that's the key to success, and that is definitely what's making Major League Fishing roll.
All right, man. Great stuff, Boyd. And through the years, I was telling Matt at the beginning of the show before you came on, I was going through some of the old tapes back from our old location. I mean, this is 9-10 years ago, and you were actually on some of the shows, and some of the stuff that you said in that interview was very visionary, even 8, 9, 10 years ago. So it's neat to reflect back on some of the stuff that has happened in the past to get you to this point and to get Major League Fishing to this point. So the last question I have, are you actually going to focus on fishing at Conroe?
I'm going to do my best to focus on fishing. In all honesty, and I think that I even did my Duckett exchange about it. Professional fishing is very important to me. It's something that it's always been. I've always worked. I'm different than most professional anglers. I try to shave off enough time to give it the time and energy. Maybe for the first time ever, it meant it was secondary to me at this event. And before I ever left, I was fine with that. Having seen the first Bass Pro Tour event come and go, being able to reach this, I feel the same way Jordan Lee did. I won an event last week. And so I'm good with that. I was good with that before I left. So Jordan Lee and I both won the first event. Okay? And that was more important to me. Now, that being said, I've not retired as a professional angler. The other 79 guys are going to retire me if I don't.
So I'd say you better watch that 3-year average, Boyd, because you're.
Yeah, that's right. I better tighten up. So yes, I do intend to go to Conroe and try to focus a lot more. And it's no excuse. It wouldn't have mattered to me if I practiced a minute or not. Having this first event come off and be successful was the most important thing in my life last week. And so like I say, I feel like I won the event. I'm going to go to Conroe. I promise you I'm going to practice both days, full days. I'm going to put attention on fishing. I'm not saying I'm going to beat this group or not, because it's a stout group, but I am going to fish at Conroe, so I expect to do a lot better.
All right, man. We want to plan on having you on after Conroe, hopefully to talk more fishing. But as this thing evolves, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to pick your brain and to tell the fans everything that's going on from an event standpoint with what you have taking place with Major League Fishing.
Awesome. Yeah, loved it. Always a pleasure. Bass Talk Live is one of my favorite things to do. You guys are great. I've met a ton of Bass Talk Live fans when I've traveled, and it's a fun show, and it's always an honor to have the opportunity to come on, and I want you to know I appreciate it. I've always got time.
All right, man. Sounds great. Good luck over the next week. Be safe going to Conroe, and we'll talk to you soon, Boyd.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right. There you have it, Boyd Duckett. Yeah, we got some answers. He's got to catch him at Conroe, too, though.
Yeah.
You think he'll focus on fishing?
No.
Man, that would really be hard to do.
He's a year and a half out from focusing on fishing.
You think?
Yeah, guaranteed. How can he?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like his legacy is not going to be how he performs in the Bass Pro Tour.
Yeah. You're right.
His legacy with Bass is that he won an Open, an Elite Series, a Major, and a Classic.
All-time earnings in one season. He has that record, too.
I just don't feel like his legacy in the Bass Pro Tour is going to be what he does on the water based on how involved he is off the water.
Yeah. It'll be interesting.
Is that a
to
fair
see.
assessment?
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying he won't win one. He might win one.
Yeah.
But
one question I forgot to ask him, and like I said, we'll have him on after Conroe, was any process as far as filling the remainder of the schedule, any progress, not process. I want to know. I really think they would have to come to Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you not agree?
No, I'm sure they will.
Because
they will.
Everything being based in Tulsa.
My guess would be how it'd have to be either Grand or Fort Gibson or the river.
Yeah.
With the cell service, Grand.
Yeah.
Grand is the far and away the logical, obvious choice.
Yeah. So we'll see.
I'm very interested to see what Bass Live comes out with. I say that because we've already seen FLW live at Toho. They had a great product that they put out. They'll be live this weekend too, but I'm very interested to see if Bass rolls out anything. And
what more can you do?
I don't
they
know,
pretty much have it dialed in. What more are they going to do?
Do you buy that they're not in competition with Bass? I understand what he's saying as far as it's a different game, but dude, they're in competition with each other. There's no way around that, Mark. He can say that.
It's a battle.
He can say that, but they are in direct competition with each other.
They're both going after sponsors from the same endemic group.
That's a competition.
Yeah. But I think from the non-endemic standpoint, now there is a huge differentiation between the two products. Definitely. And we'll see after 2019. I am enormously curious about when 2020 rolls around, how many non-endemics MLF has involved, how many non-endemics that Bass has involved. And FLW is just FLW. They're going to keep rolling on down the road, doing what they do. How much of that money outside of the fishing industry is either one of those companies going to be able to pull in?
It's going to be very interesting. And I think you're going to see little shots taken by MLF at Bass and little shots. I mean, look at this. This is the MLF app. You pull it out, and what does it say right under the MLF logo?
I can't read it.
It says the purest form of competitive fishing. And,
it might be.
And then you see you're going to see, I think, little shots taken back and forth. And I think Boyd has to say
the magazine?
Boyd has to say that.
What? Do you have the magazine?
With the capital M, capital L, capital F on page 22?
Hey, come on, man. They're blazing after
Can you blame them, though?
What do you think the fans think about it?
I think there's a portion of the fans that love MLF, are progressive. They love what they're seeing. They love what they saw. There's a portion of the fans that want to see the best 5 biggest, and they're waiting for FLW and Bass to kick off.
Yeah.
And there's a portion of the fans that don't care about any tournament, that don't care about it. They just want to learn how to catch fish better.
Yeah.
And there's a portion of the fans that are going to watch all 3.
But the big difference is who is going to capture that audience that is outside of that. That is what they are trying to do.
Without alienating the audience that has made them who they are right now.
It's a delicate balance. But, you remember the puddle in the ocean? We talk about the puddle. Mm-hmm. That's where the three groups are, for crying out loud. It's who they go after that's in that ocean is going to be the difference maker.
On a very much smaller scale, it is exactly the nerdy wrestling reference.
What?
The wrestling deal the reference where I've watched those.
The WWE?
Explain a little bit what happened with that. What was the Monday Night Wars?
Well, Ted Turner at the time owned TNT, all right, and WTBS and all that and everything. They were in a battle with Ted Turner was in a battle with Vince McMahon, who is the chairman of the WWE, and back then I think it was the WWF.
Was that the original, the WWF?
Yeah.
So Ted Turner was the upstart.
Yeah. And they were battling it out for that Monday night audience, and Turner was pouring just an enormous amount of money into it. Vince wasn't going to go down without a fight. Mm-hmm. So it just turned into, all right, who's going to wrestle where? They were paying
guys
more
were
money.
Flip-flopping and they were getting wrestlers.
It was insane. But at the same time.
Was it awesome?
It was. It was great.
And you watched both?
Oh, yeah.
Flip back and forth?
Absolutely.
Did you have a remote then, or did you have to get up and change the dial?
No, you had a remote.
Okay. I just didn't know.
But from a fan's perspective, it was like, man, what is Hulk Hogan going to do? Mm-hmm. And Ric Flair was on, Monday Night Nitro with the 4 Horsemen, and then all of a sudden you see him, 2 months later over with Vince McMahon on WWF.
So is this what our off seasons are going to come down to now?
No, because you have a 3-year commitment. And it's solid. Think about the guys that they have in that 3-year commitment.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if you could get lawyers involved and out and all that stuff in the off season. And so-and-so's trying to opt out, or so-and-so's trying to get in.
No, I don't think that. No.
All right.
From a
from
entity,
a marketing,
yes.
from doing it, it's.
I mean, they would never admit in the beginning that they were in a battle. But then things really started to get out of hand.
My deal is,
Vince is being Vince.
Why wouldn't Bass go live?
What?
Just because?
Why not?
Like someone brought up, just because NBC has a program on at 8 p.m. Monday night, does that mean CBS goes, I don't want to put a program on because NBC already has a program, and we might.
But I'm going to tell you this. You know who really kind of, and suffer is not the right word, but doesn't get the full enjoyment out of what's taking place is the fan, because now they have to choose. All
Or
right?
they can watch the replay.
Or they can watch the replay, or they could split
Pull it up
monitors.
on 2 screens.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's like that scenario. I don't think anyone's suffering or hurting from it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah. It's a decision of which they're going to make choices. And I think the choice they make especially when you have 3 events going on at the same time is, okay, I'm going to watch this one, but you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to catch the highlights from the other one.
Everyone's going to elevate. The anglers are going to elevate what they're putting out on their social medias. The people are going to elevate what they're putting out. The pregame shows, the production of it, who they're showing, how many they're showing, how many hours of the live, what the format is. Everything is going to improve.
And I'm not trying to compare this to wrestling once again, but you know what ended up happening is the fans flocked to where the stars were. That's what happened. Where the stars were, that is what made WWE. All right, because Vince got out the checkbook and started paying a lot of people that the fans followed these specific wrestlers, and that's what drove, the demise of what took place.
But the WWE was the OG, or the WWF.
Was what?
The original, the OG.
Well, the wrestling world in those years very complicated as to who was first and who wasn't and all that and everything. But Vince was the man. All right, Vince was the guy that, like I said, broke out the checkbook and said, "I'm going to get Hulk Hogan over to the WWE." Right. And then Ted Turner came back, and it just...
I'll let it up. I'm not sure who Vince McMahon is and who Ted Turner is in this scenario.
You don't know who Ted Turner?
No, I do, but not in your analogy,
No.
so I'll just leave it up to...
Well,
I'm
two
confused.
very rich people going to battle.
Which
All right?
sounds familiar.
So whether it's a battle or not, who knows? All I know is that you have star power on one, you have upstart power on the other. What's going to happen? You have apples over here, you have oranges over here. Because, like Boyd said, it's 2 different products.
This is way over my head, but I feel like I kind of understand it. I don't think we threw him too many softballs. Do you?
No, not at all. He's always a good interview, man.
Yeah.
It's really, really good stuff. All right. Tomorrow, we're going to dive into the St. Johns River. We're going to have Mark Menendez on live via Skype from the St. Johns and get his take on what's taking place at the first event. And then you're going to be making a trip to Conroe. That's going to be
This
your
weekend.
first.
Yeah, tomorrow might be the first interview Mark Menendez has done in 2 years where the focus isn't on a carp.
But we will throw out a couple of carp questions.
We
though.
will? Okay. I'm just saying. That guy has to get done with this stuff and go, God, BB, I do still fish for bass occasionally.
Jeez. Yeah. I'm sure he's sick of talking about it. But from what I understand, there are some updates on the Kentucky Lake situation. So we may ask him a couple of questions. But the focus will be on the very first Elite Series event of 2019 at the St. Johns River. So good stuff. I want to thank Boyd once again, and we will have him on after the Conroe event and get his take on the progress of Major League Fishing. I want to thank everybody on the instant feedback. It's been great. Don't forget, put your comments on YouTube. Make sure if you're listening on iTunes that you review us, give us a rating, and also do a review. And that's about it, Matthew. Good day today.
It's a long show.
Anything else?
An hour and a half. You're going to be late to go yell at freshmen.
It's all right, though. Good stuff. All right, everybody, be safe. Back tomorrow, same time, right here on BTL. Everybody, stay tuned. We're out of here.